Hi, I'm Vanessa from Go Natural English. How have you been? Recently, Gabby and I taught you how to respond to the question, how are you? Well, today we are actually going to teach you something similar. Did you notice that I asked you, how have you been? Well, this is a problem for some students. They know how to respond to how are you, but they don't understand when native speakers ask them, how have you been? So today we're going to fix that for you. We're going to go over the pronunciation of this phrase, the difference between how are you and how have you been, and then we're going to provide some examples and a skit. Lastly, we're going to quiz you to make sure that you understand what we went over. If you'd like to learn and watch more, then guess what? We actually have our Go Natural English course. And in this course, you can find this video, but it's longer and has some common mistakes and native speaker tips. So we hope that you'll look into it because it really is interesting and fun. You can find that by going on gonaturalenglish.com/pre-reg. Are you ready to jump into this lesson? Let's go. So, how have you been? Did you understand me when I asked you that question? The pronunciation of this phrase can be confusing for students. So right now, that is what we are going to talk about. I think that one of the main reasons as to why so many English learners don't understand when people ask them, how have you been, is because it doesn't sound like what you see on a piece of paper. When you look at this question on a piece of paper, you see, how have you been, right? But when we talk, we actually speak fast and we use contractions. So how have you been becomes how have you been? Repeat after me. How have you been? How have you been? This doesn't just work with how have you been, right? You have many other options. For example, you can say, how's he been? Instead of saying, how has he been? Or how's she been? Or how have they been? Try to practice this as much as you can. I promise you that you're going to hear this all the time when you meet up with other Americans and they want to know how you are or how you've been. So now that we have the pronunciation down, let's talk a little bit about the similarities and the differences between the questions, how are you and how have you been? Both how are you and how have you been are very important questions. Why? Well, because they're greetings. It's the first thing that somebody will probably ask you when they meet you. And I'm sure it's the same in your language as well. If you don't know how to tell somebody how you're doing that day, then the conversation just can't really continue. What you should know is that you can answer to the questions, how are you and how have you been, in a similar way, depending on the situation. For example, in our recent video where we explain how to respond to the question, how are you? Gabby and I provided you with many examples. Do you remember any of them? If you don't, go back and watch that video. Here's just a quick review. We told you that you can answer to how are you by saying, not too bad, or so far so good, or I've never been better, or just great. You can answer in this way with the question, how have you been, as well. The difference is that how are you is in the present tense, meaning I want to know how you are doing in the present. I want to know how you are this morning, this afternoon, this evening, today, in this moment. When I ask, how have you been, it's different. It doesn't have to do with the present. How have you been is the present perfect tense. When I ask you, how have you been, it means that I want to know how you have been doing in all of the time that we've been apart. It means that I know you and I haven't seen you for a while. For example, maybe you have a friend and he has been sick for 2 weeks, so you haven't seen him. When you see him again, it would be appropriate to ask him, "How have you been?" because you know him and you want to know how he has been doing until now. You can also ask him, "How are you?" But because he is your friend and you haven't seen him in a while and you care about him and his health, right? You knew he was sick, it would be better to ask, "How have you been?" And he can respond by saying, "Oh, I've been great. I've been feeling much better," or something like that. So I just said you can ask, "How have you been?" to somebody that you know. But what if you know somebody and you see them every day? Can you ask them, "How have you been?" For example, I see Gabby almost every day. But when I see her, I don't ask her, "How have you been?" because I see her on a daily basis. So we only ask, "How have you been?" if we haven't seen somebody, I would say, for over a week or so. So when I greet Gabby, I say, "How are you?" or "How are you this morning?" Maybe if I go a week or more without seeing her, I'll say, "Gabby, how have you been?" And she'll say, "Oh, I've been great." Now, how do you respond to this question differently, right? We don't want to use traditional boring answers like, "I've been great," or "I've been so-so." Let's try to learn a different way to answer to this question. What you can do is change the structure of your sentence. So you can use the continuous form of the verb in your sentence. You can add ing, and that will make your sentence sound better and give the person more information about how you have been. Let me give you some examples. I have been feeling fantastic recently. Did you notice that I said I have been feeling? Feeling, right? It ends in ing. You can say so many things depending on how you are. You can say, "I have been working a lot." "Oh, I have been sleeping a lot lately." "I have been studying a lot." You have so many options, and this is why I like to tell you that you don't just have to say, "Oh, I've been great." There's so many other things that you can say. I always like to ask my friends, my family, my doctors, how they've been when I see them instead of saying, "How are you?" Because it's a way to keep the conversation going with somebody that you care about. You really want to know how they've been, right? Sometimes we ask strangers, "How are you?" and we just want to end it there, right? We want to be polite, but we don't really want to have a conversation with them. "How have you been?" is different, right? So if I see my cousin after a month, I can say, "How have you been?" And she can say, "Oh, I've been working a lot." And because I love her and I'm interested in knowing more about her job, I can say, "Well, tell me about it. What have you been working on?" This is a really great way to keep a conversation going. Now let's watch a skit where Gabby and I will act out different situations so you can see how you can respond to "How have you been?" in different situations.
Vanessa, it's been so long. How have you been?
I know, Gabby, I haven't seen you in months. I've been traveling a lot lately.
Lucky you.
Good morning, Dr. Wallace.
Good morning.
How have you been? I haven't seen you since my last yearly checkup.
Oh, I've been busy working. You're my 20th patient today.
Wow.
Can you believe it? You look like you've been taking care of yourself. You look healthy.
Thanks so much. I've been trying to take care of myself. I've been working out a lot lately and trying to eat healthy too.
That's great. Vanessa, I just saw you post a photo with Alyssa and Laura.
Yeah.
How have they been? I haven't seen them in ages.
I hadn't seen them in forever either until I bumped into them at the mall. They said they've been doing great. They were actually doing some shopping with their brother Mike.
Oh, Mike, how's he been? I haven't seen him in a while either. He must be all grown up now.
He's also doing really well. He's been trying to purchase a new home, and you're right, he is all grown up now.
Now it's time for a quiz. Vanessa and I are going to test your understanding of what we've taught you so far in this English lesson. Number 1 is about pronunciation. What is a more natural, native-like way to say, how have you been? Think about it. Can you try saying it out loud for yourself in a faster, more native-like way using a contraction? Well, the answer is, how have you been?
How have you been?
And part 2 to question number 1 is, what is a faster, more native-like way to say I have been? So when you're answering this question, what can you say? Instead of I have been, say I've been.
I've been.
I've been. Or you've been,
She's been.
she's been, they've been, we've been. So think about contractions to help you sound more like a native English speaker.
Number 2, if I meet you for the first time, would it be appropriate to say, how have you been? Can I ask you that? Well, the answer is no. Okay, remember what we said about how have you been? This is a question I can only ask to people I already know. So, like I said before, I see Gabby every day, so I don't ask her how she's been every day, but maybe I won't see her for a week.
Exactly. And it would be so strange if I meet you for the first time and you ask me, how have you been? I would think, do you think we've met before? Because this is something you only ask someone you already know. And I would say, but we haven't met before. What do you mean? So it's very strange. Number 3, how have you been lately? I've been feel great. Is this correct or not? It is not correct, but why? Well, we always need to remember the ing form when we use a verb, such as feel in this example. The rest of the sentence is great. I've been is how we start, but remember with that verb feel, we need to put the ing form at the end. I've been feeling great lately. This is true for any answer. I've been working a lot lately. I've been studying a lot these days. I've been hanging out with my friends and family recently. These are all different options and they all work, but don't forget that ing.
Number 4, I have a question for you. I have a job and I see my coworkers every day. Would it be okay to ask them how they've been every morning? What do you think? I hope you said no, because the answer is no. I probably know how they've been doing because I saw them a few hours ago, or maybe a day ago.
And to add to this point, this question, how have you been, is really for when you want to grow a relationship with someone, when you want to strengthen your relationship with them. So it's really perfect for using with coworkers, but not in that everyday situation. So now for our 5th question, what if you work with someone and you're coming back to work after a week-long holiday or a vacation. Then you see the person for the first time after a week or so. Can you ask them, how have you been? The answer is yes. Yes, this would be the perfect time to ask your coworkers, how have you been? Because you haven't seen them in a week, and they'll probably ask you as well, how have you been? How was your vacation?
Exactly. They'll want to know more about what you did when you weren't working.
Exactly.
So, how'd you do? Let us know in the comments below. Also, let us know how you've been. We care about you. We want to grow our relationship with you. So, tell us, really, how have you been? Okay, we hope that you enjoyed watching this video. Remember, we do have another video which is very similar, which is called How to Respond to How Are You? So if you want to keep learning, I suggest that you watch that. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.